That's great. So, welcome back, Crime Fiction Nation. We're at Murder and Mayhem and Milwaukee Crime Fiction Festival with award-winning author Rob Brunet, and we're about to ask Rob some pretty weird questions like, should poutine replace turkey? So let's get started. Rob, you grew up believing you'd be a writer and reached a moment in life where you said to yourself, I know I can write, but I don't know if I'm good enough that people want to read it. But now your novel is a top 40 best-selling noir crime fiction book on Kindle, and a popular reviewer speculated it reached cult status. Are you making noir black humors en vogue?
So that old top 40, it's amazing how quickly things come and go on Amazon, true. and I if I can remember exactly who said that about the cult status potential thing, we get a hug. It's weird. I didn't set out thinking that what I was writing was particularly noir. It's just that when the worst things happen is generally when I would go for the laugh, and people started reading, not necessarily Stinking Rich, but some of the short stories started telling me that it read noirish, and so it sort of fell into that groove. I just tell the stories that kind of turn my own crank, and whether it's something that's dark or something that's dark and funny, it's just what works for me.
So is it instinctual for you to write the humor moment when the worst possible scene in the book is happening, the blackest moment?
Yeah. Okay. I grew up with a grandmother with a very dark sense of humor, and a father, not her son, she's my mother's mother, who also had a very dark sense of humor. I mean, I remember a scene in my parents' kitchen when I was growing up, when my mother's brother called and was describing this illness that was going to do him in within 6 months, and my parents had been having this debate about what to do about a fridge that they had to buy for a cottage that we had. They didn't want to spend much money on the fridge, but they had to put something in. They were like going to go down to a used fridge store and try to haul something up the next day because somebody was going to be renting the cottage. And my mother's all shaken from talking to her brother, and tells my father, and after hanging up the phone, my father says, did you ask if we can get his fridge?
Wow.
And it was heartfelt, and it wasn't, but
sure.
It's like, to me, I was driving down here yesterday. I was speaking to one of my uncles who's gone blind, and he's not the only uncle who's gone blind, and he's letting me know, because we've got a lot of uncles, and we haven't spoken a whole lot over the last few years as he's lost his vision. His was pretty sudden. And I said, yeah, I know, because it was Uncle Jerry who introduced me, who told you it was me at the funeral for another uncle last year. And I said, Uncle Jerry, how the hell do you know? You've been blind for 15 years. And that just, it works for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm dark.
No, I think people like dark, and you get put some humor in there too, and then it just all comes together. Stinking Rich features a high school dropout who tends marijuana for backwoods bikers and fails miserably. It's been billed as Quentin Tarantino meets Doctor Who, and the sequel is touted as Bible Camp Gone Bad.
Yeah.
So how can your next premise possibly top that?
For me, it doesn't really matter who the people are and where they are. If you let people follow their natural, those dark things within the part of the brain that we're supposed to ignore, that we're supposed to be,
right.
Socially,
right, cover it up, hide it, don't talk about it, lock it away.
Yeah, and if instead you let people go there, weird shit starts to happen, and for me, again, that's just funny. I mean, the premise on Bible Camp Gone Bad was told to me in a neighborhood, and it was I sort of twisted the story a bit to help it make sense, but it was a guy running a Bible camp who boots his nephew off the camp site, like where he lived with his
right.
wife and all of his children, because he wouldn't break the law on behalf of the Bible camp. And I'm like, wait a second, aren't you a preacher? Like, isn't that what you're supposed to be about? And
right.
not only are you trying to make this guy break the law, but because you won't, you boot him and his whole family off the grounds. That's funny. You know?
You're dark. Yes. And you've also said that some of the darkest crime fiction writers are some of the funniest to be around. Totally true. What kind of hilarity have you found here today?
Well, it was a panel that was just at, and I just learned how to say his name properly, so I'll get it right. Byron Quatermass and Johnny Shaw, and they're riffing on Johnny Shaw's line was the books that he writes are two stupid guys with a bad plan, and Byron chimed in on that, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's exactly the kind of, and you know, when you've got a book, Byron's called Murder Boy, which sounds dark and nasty, but now I get that it's probably freaking hilarious, and I gotta go read it. You know?
That's great. That's awesome. So this is a little interesting. During Florida's murder boom, you hitchhiked in Florida during a gigantic murder boom. Great time to hitchhike, Rob. To and from your grandparents' winter home, and you survived. So congratulations. And you also put some of the people who picked you up and gave you rides into your short stories and novels. Yeah. Which drivers made it in?
Well, so first of all, I had no idea that it wasn't a good idea to be hitchhiking in Florida in the 1980s.
How old were you?
I was in my mid-20s.
Oh.
And so, you know, didn't have a lot of money, but my parents were, my grandparents had a place in Florida, so I would go down and visit them because it was a good, cheap way to get a vacation in the winter and spend time with them. I loved my grandparents. I'd go down and I'd sit on their lanai with my grandma.